Lasso number two Samala and Samdi Trashi Dele.
Hello to everybody. Tashdele.
Trashi Dele, start Trashi by the Dele pass in the Tonda, Kibo down Devo. Kibo Devo Yoma show.
So what the meaning is of Tashidele means something like may you be happy, may you be well.
Tangone Haruto Sama Kibo Dokuyore, Dumo Dokuyomare, and a Kibo on a Kibo Kanichin is over. And a Dumo Meva Kanichin is over. That thing, Zotan the Gaso, Yakochi Shingyo Marimato, and a Kibo Tami Malakoyo, Sami Labedeva.
We all want happiness and we all want to avoid suffering. So now the question is how we can go about it, how we can achieve that happiness and how we can alleviate the suffering. But so there are various means to go about it, but we all agree, we all say we want to be happy.
Yeah. Dini Sozangazo Dirin Dela Richini, Yamdun Zomni, and a Ditolaji, Nature Kijangani, Tony Janazola, Gajashi, Janazoina, the Dona Chimbojini, Yoya de Zukares, Masola, Deva Gugundu, Duma Gugumindu, that day Deva Yoya Tapshi Karchagundu, Giche, Donazundel Zomore.
So we all today came together, me as a teacher and a translator, and you as listeners, we all came here together to investigate, what the various means are to achieve happiness and to avoid suffering.
Oh yeah. Tangaroso Tambo Mola Cargo Yore, the Lojona, the Nichi Cavlia, so Semba the days, Lolo, Semba Lolo Mena, Semba the Zangizanga Imbaina, and a Conyentumor, Kajanyentumor, the names of the Mazomolia, Kamakashi, Unjong Gomiaila.
So as we all need to be need to have a relaxed state of mind in order to listen carefully. So we'll start with some breathing meditation first, because if we are not in a relaxed, peaceful state, then and have this agitated mind, then we can't really listen carefully. So we do some breathing meditation first.
Lasso de Carrella Vaina, Penarzo, Medo Jimola, Tambo Saja de Osogundua. Then Anjingazo, Flojon Jicheva Imaina, Tambo Soso Simba de Lolo, and Simba de Days, Koyam Moch, also a Tapshi Chile, and it and the Unjong Soba de Nicomaina, Cotiga, Soso Simba de Lolo Chala, and the Pento Chungure, or Dichani.
So just as it is the case, if we want to grow some flowers, for example, we have to, we have to cultivate the field, or we have to have a proper ground in which to plant the flowers. And so, likewise, if you want to now, study, and listen carefully to these teachings, we need to have a relaxed, open, spacious state of mind. And for this reason, we did the breathing meditation.
Yeah, and then you also, Tony. Yang zu ji cargo is and also lega cani jeba in the chun jing lega cani jeba in the one layer so samlote. 지 야가 지당 데니지 가르레라 바이나 가서 데니지 로종지 제 데니지 바이나 지 소소라야 펜토용야 아니 지겐 몽보지래야 펜토용야 데니지 그 삼로 당위토니 아종원래야 아니 지 셈바상보 제 토야가 몰롱 지자이 몰롱.
So before we engage in any activity, really, in particular now engaging in studies, what we should have, we should have a positive intention to do these things, or to engage in listening to the teachings for ourselves and the benefit of all other sentient beings, and that's why we start with a short prayer.
Sanje judan soji chununga janjo porta dani jansanchi daki jansoji be sonam rola benjir sanje robara sho kangi tusen yersoni tawa tamje pambi tambi chuna tonza ba kodam de la chanzarlo ramjan sonro ganla tavi mi karzan tarbar dubi jingmo zevi jobi tamkin zabai samza shinye nana gocha zal Tony Jason de Jibila, Chichers Concha Dendro, Chana Bemo, Denze Jansola, so on the Sujet of Vendros, Dembar and Chinchoki Makeba, Kajan Yammer Kirby Chodder, Niji Chimbo Yero Jeba, Pante did the Saror Chevara show. That's all. That didn't any Tiringa George Tsu the Garret the Ganada. 니 지마사 다발이야 겨울 모치게 단다 오미데무 어디콜라 손주는 거 손자 다 디고 몰래 넘버슬 양데 지 디고 돈다디 츠 디디도 우지 돈 양모토지 제바이나 지마 손주 옹우실라야 되지 콜리라오다 디니 용이 체도 당아서 디리냠도 좀 말해.
Yeah, so we came here to get together today in order to look to listen to a brief introduction to the teachings that are coming up next week on Monday and Tuesday that His Holiness is going to give. And the text is called The Key to the Middle Way. And so we are looking into some outline of the teachings.
Yeah. 당에 오미데무 가사님과 가시는 건데 빈소 근서달래야 되지 될래야 티고 요래 데니가나 양결로 사람마보든데 로비 까블이야 당하는 거마 알레 단데 돈센도 오지나 돈세 둥근하니 나버sol에 디디 지모토 제나 바지 야고요 사레 삼비 디니도 오지니 가자미 지 디그 돈다도마 소디니 돈세 둥근하로 디니 나버sol에 디디 많이 모토 제인.
So the other day I was giving already a kind of brief introduction to the upcoming teachings, and so I have now read through this text again and again, and so then I thought to kind of subsume the most essential points into 7 points, and this is what I'm going to introduce to.
Oh yeah, that number 2 돈세 도송에 number 2래 가르 돈세 돈데 가르 담보텔래야 질 데디그 중고송 왔다스 제등게 지는 가솔라 대와다 등월세 아주르와 대위 교수 가르 등월그 교수 가르스 등이 ngo송 송아지다 제다다 어등월그 싸왕원이 등월그 기 싸왕원이도 가르스 어 제다다 다 차버도 등월그 기 싸왕원이도 가르스 등고송 지 어디 저기에서 된스 담보데.
So the first part deals with recognizing the causes for happiness and suffering in general, and then as a second aspect here, in particular, recognize or learn about the root causes for suffering in particular, what the root cause is actually.
Yeah, 니바데 가르에즈데 어둥어르기 교단 디스타와 메바수비 탑람. 그래야 먼저 등월 그기 싸와 메바수비 탑람 걸라.
And then the second point deals with the various methods that there are to eliminate the root causes for suffering.
Yeah. Somebody got raised dameda and damibi gaja. Da go dameda damibi gaja. Then they were carried Jima number solujuri. Dameda damiga gaja.
And then the third point is recognizing selflessness, or explaining what selflessness actually means, and what the object of negation is.
Yeah. 다 시바드 가르에스 디간라 다음에 진짜 말로 버 아니 소소고 시바가 탑럼들이야 덴바니가 남샤 도르템바스 그래서 되거든 돈도 덴바니가 남샤 지시기.
And then the fourth point is to is a brief explanation of the two truths, which are a method to be able to understand selflessness in an unmistaken manner.
Oh yeah. Then 나바드 가르에스 디간라 다음에 드비 르바가 주어드 가르에 텐데지 텐스시바스 다 다음에 드비 르바들라 망보요레스 이나야 주어드 텐데지 텐스시기스.
And then the fifth point is is the reasoning that establishes selflessness, and there are many different reasonings in general, but the main one is the reasoning of dependent origination or interdependence.
Yeah. 다 되니 두바드 가르에스 디 타와 쿄서당 다음에 니 봄비 고림.
And then the sixth one is explaining the manner and how we can maintain that view of selflessness, and what the stages are to meditate on selflessness.
다 dum바드 가르에스 다 다음에 곰비 다르드 그 디부 가르요레스 다르드 펜도 가르요레스 dum바드 데레.
And the seventh point is about all the benefits of meditating on selflessness.
Yeah, number 2 dun드 다다 하고서
Did you all get these 7 points? Did you understand what these 7 points are?
네 시기 저런 선생.
Did you just hear it and then did it go out the other side?
담보 가르
To learn more about them.
레레 장고고리다 이나 점발라 샤고.
You have to study more, but also you have to remember.
맞도 장고고리스네 점발라 촌이 마샤나? 고 자나 야야한테서 펜도 요고 맞다.
If you study but don't remember if you don't keep it in your mind, if you don't remember, then all the studies have no point.
야, 담보도 가래.
What's the first point?
Causes suffering.
You
You want to be happy.
The root causes of suffering.
야고. 정말이비? 람람.
What do the others think?
데드그 교당. 아니, 둥을까 싸왕고 송아. 러바 데르바. 니바?
What's the second point?
Methods to eliminate.
Hmm?
Methods to eliminate.
하고서 둥을 때 ngo송사디가나 ngo송아 정거 뱅거래. 때 매가서 답을 따가라.
Yeah, so the methods to remove the suffering, yeah. Correct.
너네 숨바?
Selflessness and the object of refutation. Nice.
저런도 때 지금 왜?
Don't you write all these things down?
저런도 양 야, 진이 말랑나 뱅거 말다.
Only writing it, but not to say it.
오늘 저런도 지결라 양 곰시 약보 가르도 스디가나 보게 땀시다. 근데 가라 님바이나 배 신지자다. 약보 녀야도 터모마이비 지결 미들라 배 곰시다도 약보 나데 배 가고요. 가르서 양 소소 녀도로 니 기용데가 손주 약보니 이나 반도 선도 야랑들이 지도 되게 답로 약보 통구도 그래서 저런도 신지데스 약보다. 템바 약보였나 되게 템바 약보면나
I like the habit of Westerns in general. Westerns are very good about taking notes during teachings. So, but the crucial thing is to remember these points that you write down.
야야, 당에 양 가서 레레레레 지되고 나한테 양 몸부 뒤서 몸부 주고 다대 이 넘버 철이야. 다 담보 대화당 등을 그 주대 수가레스 다 치게 몸부 요리 이나양 이 수도 가르가레 라와이나 스타 담보.
So there are many causes that lead to happiness, for example, and there are many outer circumstances. But what the main crucial causes for happiness is as follows.
야, 다 수도 가르레스 디가 대화가 주들라 몸부 요피나니 이 수도 가르레스 가서 남그 삼로 삼바 상보 제가 지도 삼바 상보다 소소가 셈발 홀로다 삼바 상보 정바이나 대화세아디 이 수지 소소가 접신게 요레스.
So what the main causes for happiness is mainly a wholesome state of mind and a peaceful state of mind as well. These are the main causes for happiness.
다 둥을 세야 돼 가르라 티니 용고래 주지 몽골라 티니 종고요래 되나 주데 소소가 삼방 엠바 삼롱 엠바라 티니 둥을 둥고요래.
And suffering also comes about due to various, causes and conditions, but the main factor here is unwholesome states of mind.
penange number cholya jiwa jitiban pena meto kiwala gikin ramanda mombo jigudwa imbaina ti gikin tsud kare meto kiwala meto gikin tsud.
So I'm asking a question now. If you want to grow a flower, so there need to be many causes and conditions in place for this flower to grow. But what is the main cause that makes the flower grow? It's the question, please. Sapan.
배야고 사본 제자 사본 난신데 콜라 줄 라만다고 두디나요 메도고 지수도 사본인도 와스 대나신 가지고 되어다 등을 지수 사본 난신데 가라서 셈바 상고 셈바 냠바 엘레티니모.
Yeah, so correct. Yeah, seed is the main reason for a flower to grow, and likewise there are many cooperative conditions, and so the same is true for our happiness and suffering. The main causes for well-being, happiness, and suffering are either a wholesome state of mind and then respectively negative states of mind.
Yeah. Benazo lama zongka ba gara songore zide. Kera samba sambo cheba ina, kera mtseg nalola, chik jawa kandi chi ba ina, kera la sambo yongres. Kera samba ngimba cheba ina, kera la ani dikbo mato, kangi mato, kera la kibo yong mares, odine songore.
And so Kappa himself says that, if we have a wholesome state of mind, then, things will turn out well for us. We'll have experience happiness. And likewise, if we have negative, unwholesome states of mind, these will naturally lead to unhappiness and suffering.
Oh, yeah. Young Arozo, Nyamyongo Tony Karatukure, Sozola Desaya Posum Soba, Kalaya Posum Soba, Pita Boyova Inaya, Sozo Semba than Trini, Semba Makiwa Jini de Devaina.
So we can imagine, say we have really excellent circumstances, nice place to stay, nice things, but however good the circumstances might be, but if our minds, agitated, then we will not be happy.
No, yeah. Tayang Sozola Zaya dan Desa that to so desam Trobo Meva Yinaya, Tradio Meva Yinayang. And so Semba the Lord Shishi, Semba the Koyambo, Jewaina. Ko teletimiyang dewa pe mandawaji sorwa kibo mandawaji yungdo.
And on the other hand, if you don't have very nice circumstances, even like food or don't have enough food to eat, but still at the same time, if we have a peaceful state of mind, then we will be well. We'll have mental well-being.
To Latini Karahako to Urez, the Zude, Kararengaso, dewa the Dumur, Zeta Zu Yontab, Samlo Tanchola. So this is how we can understand that the main factor to for our health well-being is our state of mind, the way we think. Yeah. That covered the Dumur Gaji, Sawa the Carre Labaina, Dumur Gaji, Sawa, Noda Gaji, Sawa the Carre, Mishipa, Zeatele to be yours.
And so the main reason now for suffering is said to be unknowing and not knowing.
Yeah. Tam Mishipa the Lay and Ramada Yungoro. Penarzo Langa Machina, Penatiri Jonathan Dinima, the Simji de la Yonsa Langa, the Yabu Machina, Papa, Kalemobo Yudo. That then as a Kalayaboso Machina, so Kalayabo Ragmaritini, Kadina Zakana, Jodenane, Ko Gurumudurua. That then last of a king machine of Penangana Shiri. Tandange, Kijila to go, Maroka Kang, Shiba the Chuni, Samba Nation the Chuni, she to Mudo. That's what some are raised. Mushipi Wangi can you do this?
I mean, there are different types of not knowing. If there's a not knowing of a certain way. So, for example, if you don't know the way to find this Shida center here, and then you get lost and you have a problem. Or likewise, if you do not know how to make food, then there's no way of getting a nice meal, decent meal. Or like in the case of myself, I don't know any other language, so I have to rely on a translator. So whatever I have to say, but I don't get it across without depending on a translator. So this is not knowing of languages.
Ta marikpa laya dramanda mombo yobinani marikpa dukshu. Ta marikpa pe ngazole kangi zoya ke sawa ngoni tini papa marikpa te sombayin danzi marikpa zayadele dogure.
But the very worst form of not knowing is the ignorance of grasping at the self, ignorance of self-grasping.
Yeah, that don't say tambo na lo nga chanazola donda dodo loji ngoto china tinichi tikola chanazola tiwa yona.
So this is the first point in brief. If you have any questions and doubts, feel free to ask.
Can you speak more about the ignorance of self-grasping?
I think the Dr. Marikpa ki kola di mangwa.
Oh yeah, they go the
yeah, it will come below.
All my tikola tese sugar. Dili jamba.
Other questions?
Young nazo samlo tanda mare samna so te remundu. Nazo le kangi yoya ke ji su samlo tanda mare cholo ni yongure te samlo yona yang tiwa tanda digre nazo pans doni chi chogre ba.
We can all, we can have this discussion. If you think, oh, this is not true, it's not so much related to, our suffering is not related to our state of mind, but really comes from outer circumstances. Yeah, you can say this. I'm open for discussion.
I think in the West, it's hard for people to hear that sometimes, right? I work in mental health, and if someone comes to me and they're depressed, I find it difficult to say, well, that's your fault.
Yeah.
Or it's not your fault, it's your ignorance. So is there a gentle way to introduce these concepts to the people that we're gonna go and interact with when we return home to America, some of us?
Sigilu se nukchoki lompa ra dinen nangshin mission bada delchi chipa ina this kakpo yore compensation na semdom ki kepa insare ani konsu nepa dan damenda dan kesi ko yore ani bade tsala kashi yimok ani kon sa pa lapja te vaina a kanki semla ra legere kanki not yungene chenare ti des tapibo mindo chetsang tap dibo togne nupchopi mi detsala kanis delchi to ge
Then body yimi na sase ando to sola young nazo laja jatande young carres the colea aneko neko toni young didig laja jani pematona young tablo jambajini go laja jago yori mato sula yimba ina tagarang the kinindoni laja the jab dewaina young de kajilan troba the mantroba jiri yungo de mari.
Yeah, we have to be skillful, I guess. We can't say to each and everybody this same thing. We have to find then other ways of saying it, conveying it, or giving more specific advice in a different way.
Tindig yimuk na sat so la young didig labja javale young ngolia carres de ngazo miziate chik semchen shandali nuba chawra ji yoba ngazo nambi jon jebaina karza Because Targin Georgia Sami Miluzaji, Tarwaji and Jorbochi Sami Miluzaji, Tony Deshi Jagori. Tindu Kola Young Days Shedan, Changal Lutin, the Mandawachi or that, and then a college channel and the days it is a young way of Gay Omari, Namjikana, Kalagalijana, Kokangi, or the Tartu, Karrezina, Mazugu Lu, Sim, Somalia, Nuba Chavaraji, Yores, Tindu Tonian, Alaja Surjevayana, Javaina, Daisy, young Cosimchik Parola, Pento Yumurisa.
Geshe says he thinks that one could say, for example, or explain from that angle that that we as human beings have particular qualities that say animals do not have, and one could say to a person with depression, well for the moment temporarily you have this and this problem, but well, it doesn't really matter, or it's not so bad, but because of your potential as a human being, eventually you might be able to overcome it, and because of the qualities we have as humans.
Yeah, thing love goya Jumsen Road Carresicala, Timachi Coron, the Yumukana Sachon, Delatine Coro, Ranchi Jawi in Tragic Chazanchi, only at Ranchi Jab, Conotratic Temasun, Tangala to Kalako, Tema Shiva, or Ranchi Kodatic Che, or Dinichilangatus.
I'm myself met at one point a person who was very much depressed, and he already tried to commit suicide 4 times when I met him.
야. 디그 가울에 안에 갈래 랭아니데 카바토니 판즈 나니니가 통사되는 집에 어디니 가울랑에 아니 말소 미세야 돼요. 니버 쳔모 요바다 아니 지금 가자시 두고요 봐. 삼로 자친모 땅 두고요 봐. 디니 류고 돈이 바이나 레간다만데 지 두고요 봐. 디니 그 콜라 시비 가울야 아니 그 갑질라 그런 동박에 남저도 배 야고도 차니 어디니 손데 단다버도 고 랑시 잡요 말이 제가 디디야 네 미치라 펜에 사말라 펜게레다 라고메디야 까깔이야 디디야 랍제 잠나 펜도 용용도
So I can't say if this, advice is, helpful for each and everybody, but in that case, with this person that I met, who had already tried to commit suicide 4 times, but then eventually we had a conversation over the phone, and then I gave him this advice, saying to him that think of your great potential as a human being. We have all sorts of abilities, and we can do so many things. We can talk in so many ways or about so many things. We have, our mind, the capacity of our minds are so enormous. And so by having that conversation, talking this way, I noticed that the person really, his whole expression changed, his facial expression changed. And he hasn't tried to commit some suicide ever since again.
데네야 지가리오레 지디가나 뻔나 내가 저디 삼바상당에 세야데 데 체런 디자레 체런 그 삼로나라 딘디 디자요레진 딘디 니버들라고 오늘 제가 강사당 삼바 멤버 세야데 차버 치비톤 체런 그 삼바 멤버데 체런 그 란시 말이다 남식 돈의 대패가 나저 굴로가 드마 추와나시 지니 코 매바서야 요레다 가디는 체런 그 셈라데 나저 매담이 차와나시 지니 란시 치과 말이스 코 셈당 베카 데롱지 차데요 송자 텔레야 삼로당 고레즈니요 디니기 토니요 콜레야 데제 랍제잠나 펜도 용그레상.
And I also think it might be beneficial to advise that person to think that they are not their afflictions, they are not their negative or unwholesome states of mind. They should think as separate. They are not their emotions. It's not like it's the emotions are in the innate part of the person, like fire is by nature hot. So but and as these emotions are different from the person, they can be overcome, and eventually they can be free from these however negative states.
이라서다 딘디지 모두 가서 시시금도 형 저런 카드 가서 딘디가 내봐도서라 다기지 다시 지야래
가서
네 딘디지 모두 시시금도 아니 뭐이나요 남보조양 보기 내봐 다 냠도 요바이나 내봐가 내당라 다기 안 탐론 가라제고 요메 다바이나
Yeah, I don't have anything else or more to say, but then we can investigate, and depending on the situation, in the direct contact with the person, then we can adjust. Or.
다 임바이나 나로서 수도 수임바이나요. 강인 드라마다 몽보용야요. 단도인네 강인 드라마 다데. 강인 드라마다 몽보지 밀라 공다다. 어다데 공다다 저런도 상하다 까깔랑아데 뭐야 맞아 미세아들이야 가려용고래지 강인 드라마도 몽보 용고래 강인 용비 깝들랑 아주 가르쳐고래지 간래야 디까래야 타춘다마다 춘이 제기요 말이스 하고서 타추 장초년초 가르래이나 타추 딱 소소를 지까지 좀 당한들이 제샤고 삼이 타추 제지로 딘디 춘이 제기요 말이스 대제 소소로 마차바다
I mean, we all, we all sentient beings basically facing, problems in some way or another, but we shouldn't, decide, oh, this is so bad, but rather, try to relax our minds.
하고서 닥쳐.
탁지 착지치
어,
야보레
탁지,
디둑처레
뭐 소소고 지금 나들이 제작이 들이 제작이
아니요.
좀 들이 닥쳐 제기요 말했어.
we shouldn't definitely then, when we encounter difficulty, all of a sudden say, oh, I'm going to do this.
가르제를 나와 있는 뒷감을 생받은 추대요 송사 소소고 타주지 제나에 타주 논치쟁 타주지 마도 타주 양다바지 제 두고 메인 송사 뒷감을 가서 톱도 소소 생받홀로 가서 용탑 제고 그래마도 타주 라면다 제기요 말했어. 또또들.
Oh yeah, when we have an acute problem and we're having we're in this agitated state of mind, we shouldn't make any fast decisions to do this and this about it, because the danger is there to make wrong decisions. And that's why when we are in a negative, really agitated state of mind, first of all, it's good to try our best to relax.
야, 나 dinero 오지래. 되니 돈세 니바데 가르레지 등월기 교단 디 싸와 메바소비 탑자. 다텔레 등월단 디 싸와 메바소비 탑시텔레 야 내급그 탑시 제 요래 이마에는 타득그 탑시다 탑시 상한이 제는 상한이 다지기 내급지 탑시다 타득그 탑시니 제 요래스.
So the next point, the second one, talks about the different means or methods to eliminate the root causes of suffering, and there are about two ways that are being explained. We have temporary means, but also we have ultimate means to go about it.
나야. 다 내급그 탑시텔레야 디르사닝을 저 미트몽그 양지 소소라 강해지 정도가 탑시 가르쳐 되고래서 이거는 디 드르면 라면다 사야로다 소소 니키야게 메로다 다텔라서 비가 아라토야로다 다 딘디가 탑시 라면다 진이야 뭐 보여래스.
I mean, there are so many means to go about eliminating causes of suffering we find in this world. People tend, when they go through difficulties, they tend to take pills, sleeping pills, or take to alcohol and so forth.
다 딘디가 탑시 양다바지 레베스나 싸워니니 말레스.
But are these, genuine good methods? No, not at all.
강인 슈바이나 소소고 리슨 니가라 되게 논체마도 아니 카드 그 때지 나서에나 데 아제르자메즈 아직 동에도 나사식 치모도 아니가 카드 갑자야다 메사지 어때는 신로지 네코레 마도 안타들래야 소소 리슨 니가래야 어디는 노바이 마도 되게 아니 양다바지 자그 말에.
But these are at best temporary means to alleviate some form of suffering. It's like taking anesthesia. What's the word? Anesthetic, yeah, that one. But they cannot alleviate the problem in the long run.
뭐야? 당 모니터니 약쇼지 가르레즈데 탑람 약쇼드 가르레즈디간 소소고 담보 삼로자 셰바자데 간디침 비임바드 소소고 약보지 무슨비 토니 되니 코데 주톱 그 탑람도 가르요레즈디간 아주 곰자지도 가르레즈 잠부초래야 곰시 데즈데 넘버초도 데즈 시촌리 땅야 따데 약쇼지 차데 그래서.
So the best method is really to work with our minds, to meditate or familiarize rather ourselves with, trying to change our minds for the better, transforming our minds to the wholesome side, as it were, and to gradually decrease the negative states of mind.
람보체 홀로서야 다 람보체 가서 요야로다 딘디 조야가 탑시치 가르서 탁바당 짝죠 도아데 오다 코니요나 가코 파파 직디가 짝적 딘디 잡 딘디지니 아니 코 탁바가 템보지니 딱 딘디지니 람보체데 갈레갈레 딘디지니 가나 뚜르투요로 와 페테 나시 나조 삼로 냠바그리도 코 홀로서야 다 메와서야 탑로 야쇼트 곰 제아데 문디 차기요레.
So just like an elephant to be tamed, one can use like a rope or a hook to somehow tame the elephant. Likewise, the best method to tame our minds is meditation.
디나가 바르콘지요. 데 거기서 직대인지나 이런데 벤도 지금 거래. 가르레 라바이나 어데 곰 다 곰들이야 뺀다만다 몸보여래스 뺀다 다기가서 lep산이 가서 웅종만라서 곰이 봐 저 임바 있나요 소소 심 홀로 제알라 탑시 차되고 그래서
I mean, in general, there are so many different methods of meditation, and what we have done earlier is breathing meditation would be one form, say, to make our minds more relaxed.
다 디나니요 곰라야 디니 조금 다 깨곰 진이 디니 몸보여 비나니 아니 맞죠 샘데 때서 유로 땅이 탑는 약쇼지 가르치고 그래서 깨곰서야 차
And then, generally speaking, two forms of meditation. We have the single-pointed meditation, but also the analytical meditation. And that's what we need to apply if you really want to bring about changes in our minds. We have to analyze.
야, 다 디나니장 다음에 봐 곰서야 다 약쇼 차되 그래서
And the best method is the meditation on selflessness.
가르레세와 있나 상기 준데니 아니 잠불레 코 페비아가 구든 쭈드 가르레세 나솔라 다음에 비 남샤 아세아데 댄사 페바레스 상기 준데니 잠불리 자갈라 페바레 봐코 페고야 구든 수데 잠불레 페비아가 구든 수 가르레스 다음에 봐세 디 남샤데 살보지니 돈사라 코 페바레
So really the main reason for Buddha Shakyamuni to come on to this earth was really to teach us about selflessness.
야, 제자데 어디 손자 주 성지 전대디기 임바이는 탈투나 고 가르레스 디간 다음에 봐자 다음에 봐서는 샹다 지 삼로 차보 마당 와지니 오무요 내당 가르 임바데 삼로다나 오무요 내당 가르 임바데 소소 하거나 되는 용다용 말이에요 제자들이 다.
So selflessness, I mean, we don't have to make it so complicated, but it is all about really understanding and understanding the way how things really are in reality. Yeah.
좀 매로를 렌선도이메. 됐어. 내가 딱이 저런 솔라야 데 가르레지 되게 내 람보 친도 돼. 얘들아 데 라발라 데 키도 돼. 다데 타파니고 돼. 다 람보치 솔로소야라 배 탑시 약쇼 차고레스.
So below there you see a black elephant. So there's a rope and a hook to tame the elephant.
어때? 난데 라반나 버려 되게. 어때 도고 말. 어디 자자는 야. 어따데 주우데 임바데체. 다데 나저 돈시 니바데 주우데 바도다 디샤나 데리체레스.
Anyway, so that's the second point in brief.
This 디샤. 야, 어디샤. 다디는 가서 돈서 선바디다. 다 돈서 선바. 다 다음에 봐다. 다음에 비 가정 노송와자 선바디 데레.
So the third point now is really identifying selflessness and the object of negation of that selflessness.
야, 다 담보들라야 넘버절라야 남비 중고 나로라 다음에 봐 신이 몸보 시에요래. 다들 시고 어디가나야 넘버 산지비 그 좀다들라야 아니 좀다 첨보질이야 시 용거래스.
I mean, all these Buddhist scriptures, we come across the term selflessness a lot again and again. Generally speaking, in Buddhism we have these 4 different tenet systems or philosophical schools. So just very roughly, there are 4 in general.
다 디나니 가르레스 디가나 제라마와 노디바 셈잠바 아니 오마란게 봐. 코조 가르레스 다음에 봐 제한테 주고데 가사란게 비즈유기 동이 다음에 봐 제다가랑 샤그레스.
So there are these 4 schools are called Vaibhashika, the Sotantrika school, the Chittamaja or mind-only school, and then we have Madhyamika or the middle way school. And what these 4 different schools or tenet systems assert to be selflessness or kasedak. So what they assert to be selflessness is a self that is empty of being self-sufficiently, substantially existent.
Yeah. 다 오마 탄주로 와서 오마 받을 아니 집에 오마 탄주로 와서 아디 수데 다음에 봐서 주 가르래 간사 랑우니 봐 간사 덴버 봐 다가랑래야 안되니 다음에 봐 샤기.
And so, yeah, we said the highest school is the Madhyamika or middle way school, and they can, they have two parts. What we just mentioned is the lower of the two middle way schools. The highest middle way school or Madhyamika, Prasangika Madhyamika school, what they assert to be selflessness is a self that lacks true or inherent existence.
언난팅이 가르레스. 그래서더니 남이 좀다도 나마도서다 오마 탄결와데 만라와. 직든이 만라와 가니지니 딘디 시에 되고 그래 나와이나?
And so if you wonder why is it that one of these Madhyamika schools is different, they said something else.
대 만라와데 가르치고 그러잖아. 빼나 만방 개벽 네바 라 민주 림비진이 제와 낭시 빼대. 하고서 매방 개바 지제 네번 자다 지어봐이나 콜라야 맨 땅땅가 름바도 담보 매식 준주다 되는데 고스본에 땅라다 기다기지 매식 지리 땅공도 오 빼대나지 산지 준데 디기 바이나야 담보 아지 간사 디네 원보 레 담보와라 아니 오마오마게 다음에 되니야 원보가 내세 시세야 토르토르 정도가나 아니 단지비 손비 다음에
So there we have these differences in assertions what selflessness is concerned in these tenet schools, and this Geshe says is like a doctor who prescribes medicine to a patient, and they would start with first of all with some milder medicine and then gradually increase the dose or whatever, change the medicine, and so like a skillful physician, the Buddha likewise for the rather to say beginners. He taught, the assertions that are in accordance with the lower tenets, and then gradually he came up with the higher view of.
대나니장다 오마 탄기르 있다니 다음에 비남샤 손바데 땅 무요 내땅단 툼방 무니가 지금 무요 내땅 무고 내츠 무니드 가르레지 탄기르 강송비 다음에 비남샤데 무요 내땅 무니드 차로 그래.
And it is accepted that the view that the highest Madhyamika school, the Prasangika Madhyamika school, asserts, this is said to be the highest, or that view which really accords with reality.
Yeah. 다데인데 원라 아니 좀더 오마초가 다 단다 가장 고송와 지디간라 디니가 다음에 비남샤다 야고지 시발레야 담보 가자 가르 임바데 야고지 신고래.
And so in order to understand selflessness, we first of all need to understand what it is actually, what they're refuting, what the object of negation is.
가자스나 젠다 계란소 주 타보로 디니 삼로마다 빼나스 단단가 전디가 나로라 미주 철로네 렘니 아니 다 디가 나로라 땡제 생이가 미주 두에 문두에 라오나 다데 디니 렌잠케도 땡제세야 미딘디 나라 민두 제네 타제니 콜라야 렌테발야 몰라야 디니기 미디가 땡제시비 미디 간디지 임인데 야고지 신고그레마도 데마시바이나 디가 나로라 땡제자디 두에즈네 까제티바이나 민두 제네 타지오제나 고까제도 줌마찬도그레스.
Just to give an example of that, object of negation, if we, ask someone, in this room, is there a person called Tenzin? So if the person has to be very well aware who Tenzin is in order to be really sure, to say, oh, Tenzin is here or Tenzin is not here. If the person doesn't know who Tenzin is, and if he gives an answer and saying he's there or he's not, then that would be lying.
대난신그 지금 다음에 봐 아랑심에 봐 노디니가 까자 뭐시야요 어디서 소소 야고지 심바라야 몰래야 다 제가 간디지 임마다 안되니 뎀버트바 자 간디 임메데 디그 지금 체노 지금 소소 지금 로라야 다다지 샤고 그래서
닥당 뎀바.
다다 뎀버트바 자
So what we also need to be aware of what the term self really refers to. What the self is that we are negating, and then what true existence really means.
Yeah. 제가 대인 손자다 좀더 오마초 딱이 다음에 봐서데 간사랑제들이 제일 동비 다음에 받을래야 다음에 샤기 요소 디그 가자다 간사랑제들이 제스 트바 아자데 차기요레스 좀더 오마.
So as we mentioned earlier, the lower schools, they assert the emptiness of a self that is self-sufficiently and substantially existent. So the emptiness of that, and a self that exists that way is the object of negation. So all the schools below the Prasangika Madhyamika here are referred to as the lower schools.
Oh yeah, that Tanjir Vilulaya, and that may be Gajad shows it Ganaya, Gajad Gandichi Jagres, Jeza, Ranshingi Trubaham, Yana Tsutuk the Truba, Yana Jela Rama Lubits Truba, or Dinichilia, Dag Gajad Jagor. That may be Gajad, Dag Gajad, that may be Gajad.
So, and for the higher school, the object of negation of selflessness is a self that exists inherently from its own side or by way of its own characteristics.
가장이 저러저 나서 내가 연이 뜻을라 일단은 초바디나래야 콜라 인지당 부이 니가 요바지 고소소소 가자 가리면데 다다지 디날 따져.
The other day, Geshe sent like a little overview both in Tibetan and English in the group chat of the Shi.
네, 심지시대 초바디나 땅도. 그래서 땅도. 다시 땅 요상.
Yeah, so it's in the Shi group. I don't know if everybody's in there, but Geshe sent it around as an overview of these schools, what they assert, what they negate.
제가 디나로라 양 라마 중과보게 단다 장초 라로 치모 라로 항통세 지용 거래 라마 중과보 오 디가 나로라 단다 타마들 대해서도 그냥 이게 주주지 당 결도 대가르에서 디나 간산의 민두 냠등이 발라 메지 간사 시고 거래스 다기 덴제 민두 삼발라 덴제세 아데 가리메데 수고 로라 야고 차고 거래스
and so and also something else Geshe sent around is from the Lamrim Chemo, which, and the quote by Tsongkhapa, in which he says, in order to be sure that a certain person is not present, you must know the absent person. So this is coming back to the example that Geshe just gave earlier, if we want to know whether Tenzin is in the room or not, we have to be, sure who that person is.
어디 난신가 다음에 바란심에 봐서 온디 간래 알레 담보 다메 세발라 담보 다세한테 Yeah,
so first of all, we need to be sure what the self is that is to be negated.
That in the Yimba Dana Jersey Chimbo Shivali Chunjik Nanola Yimbayana, Tapiumula Mare, but the young means my young song. The Karasungore, the Gajaga. Could send the Yapochi Sozolola Tataji Mashana, Duja, Damebad, Hago to Kumares.
And she will can
Tapimula Mariba, the means the Mayan Saj, sick the Madonna Dito. Don't that she gives Janarva. Gaja, the Yapochi Lola Tata Mashana, and they may be, they made it, Demermebas and Dito, we on Netande, so go to Kumares, Shinto Kumares.
Yeah, and Shantideva says something along the same lines. If we are not aware really what the self is that we want to negate, then we have a problem. We have to be very clear about what we're negating.
Oh, digger.
Oh, yeah. Yes, the quote from Shantideva reads, without contacting the entity that is imputed, you will not apprehend the absence of that entity. I don't know English at all, but from my experience in looking at this, my English version, he has the idea that that's the right one.
냠뇽 감보 제가 차고라. 가르레즈나 딴디 빌포지 빈족한가나라 지 실라 마실라도 디니 지 롭튼도 지니 달로 주소서 로요소다 냠뇽 감보 제가 차고라.
감보세나?
Gambozna ya karza gemba.
Ano, Luchu to Sasso.
Luchu.
I have been working at the library now for 10 years, so I have gained some experience.
Yeah, that in it. Chezang, in his other number to the Yawaji. Tangazo Shiva Dinda. Shiva, Taki Channel, Dam, La Karza, Dame was at Indishi, the Jabdu, Dayan, Taki Pomodi, Dami, we call them out, Geshe Gyaltsen, no day. That Shiva did it. Ale, Jitsaso. That in Shiva the car is Dame Chinchimalo, ship, tap the la cargo, Zitigan, Tambo, also, Dembani Namshate.
So now we're coming back to your question about selflessness. So the fourth point is about gaining an understanding, or the means of gaining an understanding of selflessness, and then in particular now I'm talking about the two truths.
Charanzoga Samlo the Chalola and Champion Dronayang, so go to Marwa. Ani, Damek and Namja Shitigan, the channel to Libo Khan, Deo Satella, so Tempa de Atilla, de Semba de Atilla de Gormato, Kakolea, Chalo the Zola, Champion Road, Tiondica, Karishesum, Kokarishesum, yeah, got Tembi left to Marwa.
If when I talk about or explain about selflessness, but your mind wanders about outside, then try to focus your mind inwards and not get distracted, because if that happens, if your mind goes wandering off, then you will not be able to remember or retain it all what you are talking about.
Rina Majona and Trotea Boyudo. Imba Yenayang, so same down. Nani the champion, Tayo Marta, championship at Tayo Maru. Couldn't you go look Sigurd? Noda so good.
So when we go for a walk somewhere, it's generally considered to be good for our health. But if we let our minds wander and talk aimlessly randomly about all sorts of things, that only usually brings us trouble.
No champion doesn't can Jozo. No, you na Yoruba. No champion Rotan Candy Hagway.
Do you know how the speech goes for a walk, as it were?
Can you tell you do? Oh, that's a day. Can't you she Gola Mogola, some she divina, she divina? Ani Papo, Serpo, Milano, no, did she? Captula Sozola and Ramanami. Can't do Sozola Shenki, more Sozola Junjink, Momo Yurua, can't the Shavina. Or didn't go, can't champion Rotante? Can't you share?
Yeah, so the way in which our speech goes for a walk or goes wandering off is, to talk about all sorts of things randomly. And then, that might lead to us saying, negative or whatever nasty things to others, but then also we'll get that back, others will talk in negative ways to us.
That's what the Zapetra Muchik and the larger than all the Tindu, the pep, similar Pento Chimudu. Similar country, Shena, Nyumba, some sort of similar Tenset Samaka, Pepe, Shavina, then Nyumba Remato, Jen. Ko Kansa Shiba Ranshin Yona, the Nishigamares, Tambo.
Yeah. Pater Rinpoche says, if we say, express verbally everything that we remember, everything that comes up in our minds, is almost like, being a crazy person and someone who has some consideration, some consideration for, then they would not do, verbalize everything they remember.
Tio de la category Ze Canton Zena Kipagins. Kala Karan Tona Tamat Zashaban, Kita Pavado, Chihuahua.
And likewise, if we were to, eat up everything that we encounter, is rather like, or then it would rather be like a dog or a pig, that gobbles up everything.
Le Canton Jena Alertons. Carson, the lega, so similar lega near the Chico, Samatani Lamsa, lega the Cheshawaina. Meet the Lava Tombas, the Samo time ever, yes, Lava Tombas, Samo Meba, 그래서
And if we come across any work and we immediately dive into it, then it's also not the best way to go about it, because we don't have really any we haven't thought about what we're going to do.
야, 저한테 나 참정도 다이 참정도도 소소 수보도 다가랑 진다나라샤 소소 삼로 간주 먼저 다니 어디로 제자반은 심 참정도.
And when our mind goes for a walk, as it were, or wanders off, we might sit here in class, but then think about all sorts of things outside.
제가 대소사 심 참정마당 렉퍼랍 뇨라 일라 송식 산지 전에 진짜 typically dinner sungdo tambo ngodala dinner sungdo chanso yakunye shoas tamba tini shoas ane pe karsa samlo damda karsa ti lo tsenga kala pe semba sechi to shoa sungdo.
That's why the Buddha also advises his disciples, when you're studying or when you're sitting in class, you should focus your mind on whatever the subject is and not let your mind wander off.
다 주어도 가르에서 대만이가 남자 시고 그래 집이 대만이도 낸디나를 가르 뒤샹도 난서다 내출 제가 남자도 신고 그래 다 돈다 때리다 난서 가림바 내서 가림바 뒤 남자도 하고 신고 그래.
So now when it is about these so-called two truths, what we need to know is about how things appear to us and how they actually exist in reality.
맞sol라 윤라만다 난게 유증의 시바 가져오래잖아. 무시 나시 지시 루시 띵골라 이시 남시 죽도 남시 죽라 윤라만다 난거도 로 남시 죽라 윤라만다 난거요레스.
We have all these different sense objects, and also objects for the mental consciousness. You have objects of the senses, visual objects, sounds, smells, and so forth, and likewise thoughts and ideas. So these are the 6 objects for the respective consciousnesses. What does appear to the eye consciousness? Forms. To the ear, what does it appear?
Da, ji, ro, rekja, ishila cho. Nangdo. Te nawa de kala soso te nawa nanshi de soso la nanse chama soso ko tuche chama te demba re tagara re samna naso te je nor ko yore sta donda.
If we think that everything what appears to our senses, be it visual forms, sounds, smells, taste, or mental objects, thoughts, and so forth, if we think that these things are really exist really in the way that we perceive them to be, then we are a little bit wrong.
가르레라 바이나 나초레 초치니 가르레 지디가나 나초라 남도 만보요레 초치니 가르레 지디 나초레야 트루와 만보요레 트루와 트시 데요 손자 고 유르지 나와 있나요 까까레 lok반낭그레 까까라 따따낭그레 어디니 고데 차만처럼 와진데 두다 지금 미바메인 손자 아니 소소건 통제 릭세 참마데 인샤 지지요 말레스.
So we have all sorts of things that appear, all sorts of thoughts that appear, and some are possibly correct, some are mistaken or wrong. But this is not sure, not definite. So we shouldn't, be overly certain. So this is the way things are.
소소 마가사가 미치 임바이나 따페 미든 통원데니 미드페 쭌이 까차 셰당 미드 자와 제당 사마드 누가 짱짱마도 야가 쭌이 통투고 말 미든 통원데니 페 소소 페 셈바 마기보 미드페 디자 짱짱마도 야고 쭌이 통고 말 미치.
We might, come across a person whom we see in a totally negative light. The way that they talk, the way they act and whatnot. We can't see anything positive about them.
Yeah. 다 치즈 갈레 밑에다 소소니 갈레 선참보 차소나. 다 나마는 통cer다가 미다가나 치. 이번에 소도 통cer다 로니 다 코나지가 미약보 매번 통용.
But it might be the case that once we get more familiar with that person, that our attitude towards them shifts completely, and all of a sudden, at some point we say, "Oh, there's no nicer, no kinder person than him."
가른 간 통약의 미드 다가는 나마 미드리 통계의 미드야 나마의 미드리 이마에는 띵지런도샤 가르치는 지런도
So the person that we perceive now in a totally different light than before is the same person, and likewise we ourselves haven't changed. We are the same. So how is that our perception is so different?
제가 내 먼치아도 가르쳐 가서 임바이나 초로니 배 콘지런도샤레 삼로 때마도 소소 나노가 삼로 당당히 지런도샤레 되게 삼로도 식침부 가서 레고요 말이야. 원인치나 가르래 코고 링아 요송고 제조야 되진 지런도에 대단 냠도 소소고 삼로 당초도 수군 지런도샤고 그래서
Normally we think it's in the outer person or outer circumstances that changed that we perceive them differently. But in actuality, it is both. It's in this case, the person might have changed in some ways, but it's definitely also our way of thinking that has shifted.
다나제 남중에 배 가르샤기요지 대변나 소소 카바지뇨고요 바이나 안 카바 송고나로 디가나 카바 배 딜레 야니자 직바 직장 배 소다 직바 배 카바 직장 되진 카바 야탐바요나 다디나니가 카바지뇨고도 간디뇨 디나니 카바지 틀레니 오단데디뇨 섬니 이제 담보 다운데 가나 직바 직장 통거래 이번에 나게 디뇨기에 세니 소소 뇨야가 타쇼 카바 직디 카바 쪽나니 찍래야 소소 다운로드 마서는 오다니데 디뇨기에 삼디가나 다 통슬 로노 디 쪽나니 자와 제쇼도 니 뇨기인세 자와 제쇼 차로 내 가르친
So we might want to, buy a new phone, and then we go into a shop, and then we see in front of us on the table like hundreds of phones. And although in the beginning, initially we perceive them all similarly or in the same way, but then once we make the choice to buy a particular one, then our perception shifts. How is that?
Yeah. 가르에서 디가나 카바가 지차는 저런도요 말이. 내 요기에서 디가나 카바가 지차 남산 저런도야 되게 말봐. 이마이네 가르 소소단 제와스나 민두 소소고 삼로 당초들래야 저런도샤고 그래서
It's nothing that changed within the phone itself. It's our way of thinking. Once made the decision to buy a particular phone, then our perception shifts towards that phone.
다들이 뇨아 타제니 틀레니 골모드 테사송나다 다 딜리장페 다페 카바 베자와 체슈 카바 약쇼 당하는 거디 삼니파 셈레아페 담선도도 식침부 차용도 하면서
And then once we have bought this phone, then we have this sense of, oh yeah, this is mine now, this is the very best, and yeah, we really grasp at it.
조신이 점선돼서 요리 가르레서 요이는 네 공가돈도 테서스 네 공가돈도 테요 송사 내가 나라 자치 모레스 조신이 점선돼.
So from one point of view, there is a reason, and we paid quite a lot of money for this phone, and so then that's why we cherish it.
이마이나요. 소소 카바도 키노니 딱이 카바 달 하마 고요로 하마 고디냠도 대샤니 딱 카바니 주디나니 자치쇼 가르레스 데레 진람사 야나 카가 말아봐 있나요 그래서 셈레야 티리 드니 또 딱이 소소 카바들라 주지 카바 자치쇼 데리 야쇼 데리 소상로 당고 가르치니 코나노건 트지란 주란도요 말데 이나야 소소던 제와차 소소게 뇨기 소소게 다도 소용디 갈라 코란신게 자와치 모레 고야쇼레 삼고데.
Yeah, once we made the decision to buy a particular phone among all these others, we have that sense, oh, this is the most precious, the best one, It's nothing, within the phone that has changed. It's really our perception of it.
Yeah. 제가 대인 소자 단도르 디샤바이나게 가르라 우요레지 나르소고 지금 통나 리나 참말이야 소소 삼로 촌이 마당와진 인샤 제와이나 디그가 좀 거꾸로 몸보지 태고요레스 가르레라바이나 디나나 줌바 몸보지 난게요 소자 디 람사 인샤 제와이나 디그 토니 맞을래 뇨다용요레스.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that among all these thoughts that we're having, we have oftentimes faulty perceptions, and we shouldn't take it for granted for something to be in a certain way.
양 빼나가 존데니도 미 파쇼고 류마가 남절 키탄도다 딘디 짱발레 딘디 미들레 이치지 미들레 레와지 미들다 빼나 제나서 나라 코다 타바지레 기시지레 다 코다 야고 인사레 삼네 대삼지는 나라 촌디 Taki machine Jonathan Deachena, Gijana Jonathan Gorkoyan Taja, Tayaga, Yenka Yorba. In a cool middle and Deva Chevalea, only a midi Kadikadi Yimi. Taki Machina, Susan Gorko Tango.
So just to give an example, if you see me and you think, oh, that's a monk, he's probably a very good person, but if you don't investigate any further, so there might be the danger that I deceive you in some ways. I mean, this is to say, if you don't investigate the real nature of a person, if you just look on the outside and think he or she is in a particular way, then we have a problem.
Yeah, low Karzani don't Jobgina, Dinichig, Lola and Gorko Dini table, Dini Karaz de Gamugi, Tati Jeromobori, Yimba, Mide, Petrachico, Tonga Serbocon, and the Momoting Mid Momishi. Yimba in a Colama Yins, Turku Yinsa, and intelligent Nani Tese, Kachano, Shinyam the Legend. That is Tese, that Nani. Chedangachene ngomong shingo marda imba ina ta dine kachashi ale ta ko truki namrolini yensa namrolini o truki yen dinizide ta pe trachin pe dine konsha ta truki yen dinizide ale te nimaji ko ngala genla ngala gormo yarochi olla so kazogo nga sala mi shanda jiga juni gormo tingayo ko tinga yargo widu ana ko lama truki yen zingdo tabandre ke mare 아니 도지된 손주도 가능할 때 쇼미 전화라 야려. 난 거라야. 아고 디고페 나를 깔레 베코가 초조지니. 고고 당초지니. 타마당이라서 이마 디미디고페 치질 몸보 고고 당데기도 단다이나 베 미디 고고 몸보다 단다게 시고야 베 저는 저이나 저저지 마도 어디 코페 지트르키 캐치 신규 야 신규 마 신규는 어디 되는지는 난 치질 몸보데
Just to share one of my own experiences, I once came across someone who said he's a tulku from Namdroling, and he was dressed in robes and he seemed to be a good monk. And I didn't know him from before, but we just met briefly. And then anyway, at some stage he asked me if I could lend him some money. And then I ended up giving him 50,000 rupees, which is quite a lot of money, right? So, but that got me into trouble. So, and he's apparently around, and he talks about himself. I'm this reincarnation, this Rinpoche. So be careful. Anyway, so the main point here is not to trust too much, the outer appearances. If you don't investigate further and investigate what the real situation is, then we might end up having trouble.
Oh, why? Very good rest. Why is it distinct? What you are the permisi yagores. Karas the gonna quote Topasai. The Yincha Majin Karina. Didn't you go to Karina? Didn't you Karina? Or did you are the pay away?
It's good to always, question things, again, coming back to, how things appear to us, but, we should always question, is that really true? Is that really in accordance with reality or not? So that's why asking questions such as why is a very good thing. Many different reasons. You can't look into all of them and can't get an understanding of them just right now, but the most important of all these reasonings that establish selflessness is the reasoning of dependent origination or interdependence.
Oh yeah. That daily is some Tawaina, Kotomba is independent chair you is in oh Dini a chicken time you set to yes.
So a tended company
지금 말이야. 땡들사도 뭐니 이미 junsen.
So the interdependence is basically that establishes emptiness. And when we get a proper understanding of this interdependence, we'll be able to, eliminate these two so-called extremes of eternalism and nihilism.
그 주어도 가라서 땡제디 가라야 고 라오메 바샬라 라리 추간이 집안 샬 라리 고 땡제디 가라 고 라오메 돈 라오메 고 그래스.
So the Tibetan term for interdependence is tenjel, and these two syllables have both their own connotation. And ten, the first syllable, has the connotation of not being independent, depending on something else.
Oh yeah. 다음은 추간이 집안에 고 라오메 바이나 메바리베스나 메바마레스 젤 아jal란 데와요레. Okay.
And the second syllable is Shenla Rali.
Shenla Dewa Baina. Shenla Dewa La, Shete Yokore, Shete Mebala, Shenla Dewa Jatu.
Yeah, so the second syllable has the connotation of depending on being connected to something else. So yeah.
Oh yeah. Being so that got into the Salo Tambaina, Chinacho Dewa, Dumur, Karina. 참아데 지가 젤라 때 요래 삼디가라 까 때사데 다시 그냥 싸워 치고 차요 어디냐 이거 봐 그래서 소소 소소데 파마를 때 요바데 하거나 파마라시 그 싸워 치고 쳐야 다나 이제 루트티 개글 땡기 요소자 개글 라시 그 싸워 치고 차는 거 내나시 그 소소래야 대화데 ዣ다라 tu니 요바데 하거나 이게 젠데 싸워 치고 라시 그 용을 했으면
And if you then understand that everything depends on something else, such like we depend on our parents, or for us to learn and progress, we depend on our teacher, and so forth. Then we can appreciate or cherish others or consider them as precious. Because also for our livelihood, we depend on so many other things, other people.
Yes, I think Naruto Tendi Korlea Nibur Samlo Yani where the Hajingo Kichimuchi Chadiore.
And it's very, very important to over and over again think about and contemplate this idea of interdependence.
Yeah. That Tendi Kola Samlo Tan Tendi Cheva in a Kapchile, Susan Yamungu Tole, Tendi Leon the Kan, Tendi Lola Sharon the Kan, Ranshing and Tanda Tomba Nisade, La Nibash Chirindoya. Tomba Nisade, Samlo Tan the Petica, Chentala Malhoma Jenny, so Tanya the Yoba, Tanga Tanya the Yobazina, ko Yo, Ranshin Jime, or Digger, Kila Dada and Dotovich, Omilam Sindo, or Uma Dada and Dotovich, you raise. Then you can some down.
Demba Matupa?
Or Dember Matuba, Dember Mebata, Tanya the Yobani, Gava Mebatata, some of that.
And if we can have a proper understanding of emptiness and this interdependence of phenomena, then we'll understand that things do not exist truly, ultimately, but conventionally. But this we need to contemplate and learn about more.
Oh yeah, just a day is on that. Pena also Namjin repeat Jarbo, Tendi Tensi Zeni, Tonya to Jigriba, Tele repeat Jarbo, Tendi Jarbo Nanjere Zidiganea, or Riba Nani Riba Sudre, Tonya to Jigriba.
And the reason that establishes emptiness is supposed to be or said to be the king of all the reasonings.
Yeah. That digatini or the subject about that in each Tony, as I'm not on go. That subject Triba de Caras, Tawa Johnson, Dame Gums, Dame Gumikorim. Tambo Tawa Johnson Zitica Carado, but the Dame be Namjas at the Sozo Yapo, Semlea, Mini Tata Yoma, Sozo Yapoji Shembala, that's who categories, Sonum the Chok. Drop, yes.
And then the sixth point is about maintaining the view and how the stage of how to meditate on selflessness. But what we need, like as a prerequisite, as it were, is to have a vast store of merit. We need to accumulate a lot of merit to do so.
다 손음지 초세야디 주 간간의 지니스 살고 요래 시디가 다 손음지 초세야 사단들한테 여비 나니 다 주데 가르레즈는 가서 잠바당 니제 곰바 조바 곰바 장주기 셈 곰바라 소바 손에 주레스 손음지 초사비 주.
So, I mean, there are all sorts of different ways in which we can accumulate merit, but the most important ways to do so is to, develop loving kindness, compassion, and the spirit of enlightenment, bodhicitta.
다른 수술에 양 딘디게 지금 니바 대상고 매바 딘디 임바이나니 딘디가 저지 본조는 조보 부하다 찬세와라 소바다 다 딘디게 지금 저기 저지 수소 zon한다문다 사야 어디서 임바이나요? 고 속삭 양아 지금 로고요레스.
But there are also other ways, to make offerings to the three jewels, to, do prostrations, and to recite mantras. These are all other means of also accumulating merit.
너르디 샤바나 가서 양랍 등고 고니 초사도장 제야 단초도 장스러워던 최주 샤바 지세로 구셔서 기와초도 다 그쳐서 제야지로 양랍 등고 고니 초사도장 제고야 빼낸가레스 다미비 따와지 수도 하고 gond도 요바다 대 gond도 요바다 대 냠니 젠도 요니지 바이나.
So if we wish to get a really good understanding of selflessness, then all the practices mentioned in the seven-limb prayer, such as doing prostrations, offerings and confessing, rejoicing and so forth, these are all good means to purify our negativities and to accumulate merit.
야, 다 다면이 곰비 고림 세야데 가서 가니치네 삼로당 고래 지등가치네 다면이 또비 고림 요마. 가고래 주기 다면 몰로 또 가고 간사가 다면 몰로 또 바딘데 요리 꾸니레 고림 또비 고림 요마레스. 또발라 고림 요마레스.
There are in fact these two types of selflessness. Yeah, the selflessness of persons and the selflessness of phenomena. And what the realization or the understanding of these two types of selflessness is, there is no particular order.
야, 이마이나야 곰비 고림 요레스. 곰비 고림. 삼로 땅야가 고림 냠내 그 고림 바다 요레스.
So there's no different, but there's a difference in order what the practice or the meditation is concerned.
야. 다때 곰비 고림도 가르레지데 담보 데디그 텐시제비 나이치거와 나 아이 베베 마이레 아이 인지도니 아이레베 아이 라고도 오디 아이 자 돈다티 키시소니 데고 데버트바레 마레 데디그 토니 삼로당이 토니 담보 간사가 다음에 몰로 공부레스.
So, what the practice is concerned, usually what's advised to start with is the meditation on the selflessness of person. So that's where we then, bring the sense of I up in our minds and investigate that.
Don't be nagarutsoleya. Na! Zin naudi, Gandichi Nangaduzin, na! Zitikala. Pe. Pombo nalo laichi, not pe. Traporo jida, not ji. 가서 다들 시마 신기로지 누가 돈다 나 상상원 나 랑원 도지 난게도 안 가져.
When we bring up this sense of I, it, how does it appear to us? It's usually very like something within our body as very something strongly. We have that. It's a bit difficult to say, but we have that sense of a strong sense of I here within us.
이마이나야 딘디가 나 아직도 나 딘디 차보다 지금 나 상상와 야나가 라와와 지금 나절라 나와 나신게 딘디 나지 요르베스 요마레스.
So it seems to be existing so independently, but is it really the way that it exists truly? But it is not. We have that sense of I very strongly being independent, but this is not how it really exists.
나 라와와 나 상상와도 매와 있나요? 나 메고 마레스.
And although it is not, the I is not existent independently, but it doesn't mean that the I does not exist at all.
야, 나랑시 매바다, 나 매바니 시과 임바이나, 아니, 내 두녀 병아 요마레더니.
If inherent existence of the I and or the not existent existence of independently and not existence at all would be the same, then there would be nobody who experiences happiness and suffering.
야, 나 매바다 나랑시 매바니보다 직바레 람녜다 직바레 삼로 다니오나 아janda까지 시고 말이 직바지 키오니 공골마 야 다셔지 잡다 Then you go Carla, Ara, loud. Ara, Lapigan, Sunagan do lata. Nanagan do lata. Nanagan, Nayo Marwa, Narashin Yomar, Nameva Chipara, then it you know Namezigdo, then Nandu Mundulata, didn't it?
If it would be the same, to say the I doesn't exist independently, and the I doesn't exist at all. If that would be the same, then you go about and hit someone on the head, and then if they shout like, oh, ouch, and you ask him or them, who's there to feel that pain, and then they would go, yes, me.
Yeah. Jason Din Sonza, Na Denver Mebazata, Nameva Nibo de Chipa Mares, Na yo, Na Denver me, or the Chaper the Niberta, so the Chaper Sejoni Niberta Chego, Na yo, Na Denver me, Na yo, Na Ramuni me, or the Chaper the Nibershibo.
Yeah, so that's why we really need to know the difference between, the I exists, it does exist, but it doesn't exist inherently or truly.
Oh, yeah. That Dami Gumikoro, what did he? That Thomas in the middle, and then Nibadala Carres, that Nam, and the Kansas in the middle, Dili Shambago, and the Rangi Pombo down. Then he Gijima di Bichose down, that will also be true. Then Kansa might be true, can each even Deda, Aranshi Mepare, Demer Mepares, Odini Gumbadala, Chugidame, Chugidame Gumbas, Kansa Dame Molagum, Chugidame. She's a good similar pendo chair, yes,
So, first of all, as we said, we usually meditate on the selflessness of the persons, and then next step, we continue then with the meditation on the selflessness of phenomena, which is then to investigate that, all of the physical aggregate or the aggregates are not inherently existent, and likewise all outer phenomena, just like the table and so forth, they also do not exist independently or truly. And so this is said to be more beneficial for our minds if we go about it in that order.
Oh yeah, that Dumba Damigumi Tartigan Jibusia did it. That Damigumi Tartigan Jibusia, the Diki Chimbo, Garchavos and Dota, Niki Cholaya, that Dami Tawazadi, Tarayomari, Doma Niki Tawala, Tawa Damibala, Tara Chuniomari, yes.
And then we come to the last point, the seventh point, which is the ultimate outcome, the ultimate result of meditating on selflessness. And here we have two ways of going about it. We have one presentation that looks at it from the sutra perspective, and then we have the other way that looks at it from the tantric point of view. But what selflessness as such is concerned, there's no difference whether we look at it from the point of the sutra or the tantric way.
Yeah. That maybe Tawaza de la Suzu Goa Yabo Chabadan, Sozo Tsaminiba in the Nebaina, Tangasu Matseganalola Pendokara, Ezitigana, Tambo Delea, Ani, Natsuga Delea, Jikti Chugi Zachido, Jikti Chugi Zadanila, Makiwala, Penta Hajan Chimbores.
Dami Lateni.
Oh, Dami Goaji Yobaina, Dami Picola, so Goa Yagoji Yobaina, Matseganalola, Suzugila, Jikti Chugi Makiwala, Penochimures.
So if we have a good understanding of selflessness, then what will be the outcome? We will not, have these. We will not be influenced very much by these so-called 8 worldly concerns, and so that will be very beneficial for our lives.
Karijinilawana jikten chugeziado sude danzang ga trokchebala teni jikten chugeziade nasugela shichibole kuyore kiyore.
Because it is due to this self-grasping, this strong self-grasping attitude that we are influenced by these so-called 8 worldly concerns.
Yeah. Deni yanda gubachi kariyo da ngatsun tartiku gubasena mindu deni karareze ngatsogo jelaya nyodip dan shidip zini da jiba mombo yore. Odindi jiba duso ime donga kange wanda cheba inaya nipar tate pombar cheba laya dame toki sherab nyakchila matimbar jandala teni pangwi tabiyo mares.
And as we all have all these, all these afflictive obscurations and also cognitive obscurations in our minds, we need to overcome these. And whether we do it from the sutra or tantra perspective, the understanding and realization then at the end of selflessness is crucial for this to overcome all these obscurations.
제가 당을 줬더니 다음에 비 꼴래야 투바지 삼바지 곰바지 림비지니 도와이나 당을 줘 라로소소 그 드브니 파샤단 제바 어디니 따니 아니 다르그 산지 공부 제가 소소 뀨은께서 연대 군대지 강사 되니지 착 토그레스
카메라 가서
야 뀨은 근세 연대 군다담바 하고서
So then when we practice and get an understanding and realization of selflessness, that's the means to overcome all these afflictive and cognitive obscurations, and also at the same time give rise and develop all these great qualities.
그래서 다 자송 아니 너무 조용 주소 가소리도 주소 가소리 나한테 제가 그래
너랑 제가
아 다다르지 다 저런 조용 나한테 제가 양 차례 유니죠 배고나양 배 되면은 저런 조용 지와대제 당나 야고도 선바이나 지와당 대랑어 제시 자담을 저런 조요
So if those of you who have some work to do, feel free to go and leave. You don't have to stay, but others who like to stay behind, you're welcome to ask questions. It's up to you. It's your freedom.
We're interdependent.
Oh.
It's the interdependence of the freedom and not leaving.
Because tenderji.
Thank you. I wonder, is there like a test for recognizing this self-centeredness? Like, how do you test if you're, stubborn? You're like, I'm not that. Is that the test? If you're rejecting it, or how do you know?
The self-cherishing, the
Yes.
grasping.
Yeah, I'm thinking of at Tushita, it's like this monstrous demon of self-grasping. Like, how do you know if you're suffering from that affliction?
Så alltså dagsen shooting då gärna det kan det ha på göra. Det kan det starta till tagare.
다 단지 첨보요나 아까라 요메드 간이지네 하고 두그레 라바이나 소소그 jelle야 다 돈다가 저 노차 컨트롤 알게르 차도라 소비 남도 지금 첨보요 바다 지금 망보요 바디 저거 소소라 단지 첨보요 비 따르다.
So the sign of having strong self-grasping are all these afflictions in our minds of anger, attachment, jealousy, pride, whatnot. These are the proofs.
다나진 그 미지그 소소라 균주 떼지 제바이나 소소그 초라야 떼지 지금 만들고는 바쇼 미디그 소소라 남상 남상 가서 배 지금 딜레 로쇼쇼로다 떼지는 상도다 마트니 파 무소비 파 남상 선선로 데니 삼로 식침보 당도 오 데니라서 바용바이나 고 단선데 식침보 하신 요비 딱.
So also if someone criticizes us or points out some faults, and then we often have that immediate reaction. We want to say something back immediately, and we get angry and agitated. So this is also another sign to see that we have that.
오늘 제바이나 가르 존로인바이나 파쇼 미디그 칙디까지 라바이나야 이 칙디가 나서 얼마 속고 민두 나서 나고 민두 인바이나야 가르서 파쇼 칙디까 라데 남선데 딱 진이지 파쇼네 식와 나신 그 삼로가 나로데 레고요레스 데레아도 주 가르에서 디가 나 교메 나 약보인 나 상보인 나삼 디스 칙침보산데 파쇼니 쫀테제 주공디가 남사 콘돔 바리온 거래 어디 고 단선다랑 진선데 식침보 요송자 딜레디니 모소바들레 거래.
It doesn't physically hurt us in any way if someone abuses us or criticizes us in some ways, but immediately we have that strong sense of anger comes up strongly. So this is a sign that we have this self-grasping, self-cherishing attitude very much.
그러면 미기신 용원의 전에 그 신랑은 당바세야 돼. 미 망보래야 배 그런 거 로마 망보라 손쇼나시 미까지래야 아니 범해지 그 부키오네 여기 티강은 뒤틀라 저런 거 부부파 닦고 잡스 nge tanda ko da ko je da nge da ko je mutop sin ko la ti ti le jar ti ya de kala ani pe kong pe tse bu de pe da ko ya pe ni pe jini chone song ju na ni jig de ba chone kong ju ni ma de da chi se ti pe me de be jo ba shik ju pe me de la janda ko ma jini kya na ko la te ni je sho o de na tama de la pe gishi pe chone bu da ko yam de ni je de 다 로트서 가자 항상 그래와 코 잡아지래 다 부여나 다 답에 뭐니지는 나서 로이면은 다 좋아래 생각 지나라 같은 데와 계속 같이 나르 그래와 추니 나르고 말 제가 두서 가라서 단지 식종하다라 진지 식종이다 어디 치스 굳이 니 부츠 저러지 공다 나오데 라서 파트르데
There's a story of a great Geshe Gyaltsen, who was a monk, greatly learned, and there was one occasion where he was teaching, and then all of a sudden a woman came up with a child in her arms, and she placed the child next to Langri Tampa on the throne, saying, "Here, this is your child. I've taken care of it until now. Now it's your turn. You take care of it." And of course, it was a made-up story, and the woman was kind of encouraged by someone else to do so. And then, of course, it was, or might have been for many, like an embarrassing situation. But Langri Tampa himself, he was very, casual. He was pretty relaxed about it. He just said, "Okay, it's fine." And then later on, when the woman had, regret, and then she came back saying, "Oh, sorry, please give me my son back or my child back." And then again, Langri Tampa said, "Okay, here, you take him." So that was a sign, or it's just to illustrate that in his case, he didn't have that strong sense of self-grasping or self-cherishing attitude.
제가 딘 손자 말죠 다음에 그걸로 로종지 냠내지니 따로도 가려용 고레스 가르세디가나 뉴모식 총로 도나 다 다음에라 삼로 따야다 디베 그 딱지 통교레스 다 소소 다음에 그걸로 로종 지금 제가 디저고 소소 날개식 진도나 고 나사도 마손 매 가존 통화이나 나사식 치린도나 맨다 나사 니보데 다다 레그메로와 소소 맨동디가라 소소 스보 데리데리 나사도 다르도나 맨다 다다 나사디 간라 다다 맹 팽기요로와 오데나제 다메자 가서 치성 상로다가 디초그 고 뉴모데 식종류 도와이나 고 맨다 다다 그거다 노토고다
It's just, we can imagine suffering from an illness, and for which we then take medicine. And if, by taking the medicine, slowly the disease gets less and we get, healed from it, then the medicine is right for us. But if for some reason, it doesn't really work, but we don't get better, then there's something wrong there. So likewise, if we, go about studying, about selflessness and contemplating this, if only our pride and our afflictions increase, then there's something missing there or something not going quite right. But ideally, once we learn about selflessness and contemplate about it, we should, as a good sign, we should have lesser afflictions.
That's all. Jana, do you?
Anybody else have any question?